anybody who would want to receive that, we really welcome you to subscribe, and then we can all learn together. Now, without much ado, I'll introduce Anahita D. So she has requested to keep the introduction very short. And like if I have to say one thing about her, or like rather one line is like too short for what she is. But she's really the child of Mother in Sri Aurobindo, and I feel the number of lives that she has impacted has really made a lot of difference, especially for the youth who is struggling with so many problems in today's world. Like we call them so-called millennial problems, or even problems in general. Through the through the consciousness in the words of Savitri that is written by Sri Aurobindo, Anahita Di really brings out that essence and really plays a very important role in touching the lives of many, many individuals, many, many youth, by really being that bridge in translating those words to the youth of today. She has been teaching yoga for over 20 years, and yeah, without any further ado, I really welcome Anahita D to share your experience with all of us.
Thank you, Palak. So just a quick show of hands. How many of you are practitioners of Hatha Yoga? Okay. Hey, I see my students, they are not raising their hands. They are not practitioners. Okay, all right. But any case, this talk will hopefully be useful to people who are practitioners as well as people who could be future practitioners. I can see two people have raised their hands, but we will take, oh, you've raised your hands for your practitioners of Hatha Yoga. Okay. We'll take question answers towards the end of the session. So keep your questions ready for then. So Hatha Yoga, what is Hatha Yoga primarily? We hear of so many types of yogas. So let's understand what is Hatha Yoga. Any system which involves asanas and pranayama is called Hatha Yoga. In simple words, Hatha Yoga is the system of asanas and pranayama. Now, what is special about asanas and what is special about pranayama? Patanjali, who's regarded as the founder of yoga, sums up yoga in one beautiful Yoga Sutra of his. Incidentally, those of you who are not familiar with Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, he's written 196 aphorisms in Sanskrit, which is the most brilliant work to understand the workings of the human mind. Only 3 of his 196 sutras are about asanas, but the rest is about the whole in-depth study of the miracle that the human being is. One of the 3 asanas, he says, Stiram Sukham Asanam. An asana is a posture which is still, stiram, and relaxed. It's not tense and tight and I have to do an athletic. So asana is one form of exercise where you remain still. You look at any other form of exercise, Aikido, whatever else, martial arts, there's always movement. Yoga has a little movement, Surya Namaskars or whatever, but largely it is holding an asana steady. Why do we do that? Well, because the people who gave us Hatha Yoga, rishis of the yore, had already discovered beautiful mind-body connections in the lab of their own body that are now being explored in our scientific labs. Nowadays, there's great talk about mind-body connection, about mind-body being a single unit. Hatha yogis knew that thousands of years ago. They knew that the compartment between mind and body is artificial, that the body is condensed thought, that the mind and body arise as one unit together. So we all know that if we can still our thoughts, if we can slow down our thoughts, that's the key to making our life work. And that's Patanjali's definition of yoga. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the union of your outer being with the inner being, which happens when thoughts stop. But Rishis also knew that for an ordinary person, it's almost impossible to make the thoughts stop. Swami Vivekanand actually says that the human mind is mad like a monkey that constantly jumps. And then he says, not just a monkey, but a mad monkey, so it'll jump more. Then he says it's like a mad monkey stung in its tail by a scorpion. So, given such a scenario, uh, it's virtually impossible for a regular person to still their thoughts. So, the Hatha Yogi said, begin with your body. Keep your body still. An asana, sthiram sukham asanam. An asana is a posture which is steady and relaxed. So, keep your body still, and by, your mind will also be quiet because your mind and body are constantly arising as one unit. Uh, there's a best selling book by Claire Sylvia, A Change of Heart. Claire Sylvia was a person who had a heart lung transplant. And the beauty is, immediately after her transplant, she started having dreams of a person called Tim and started craving for junk food, like junk food which she'd never eaten or liked before. And when she did a little exploration into it, she found that she had received her heart from a person named Tim who loved junk food, donuts, beer, all that she was craving for. Why this baffled the medical community was that medical science thought that only your neurons, your brain cells store memories. But it was clear that the cells of your heart also store your memory, that your mind is in your body. So, because Hatha Yoga knows of this deep, deep connection, uh, it said start with the body, keep the body still in an asana, and that's how your mind will also get still. And that's what gives you, Sri Aurobindo gives a lot of emphasis to a Sanskrit term, dharan samarthya, the capacity to hold the Shakti that descends. And anyone who's practiced asanas regularly, this capacity to be self contained, to hold Shakti naturally increases. So let's look at Sri Aurobindo's words. The Hatha yogic system of asana has at its basis two profound ideas which bring with them many effective implications. The first is that of control by physical immobility. Second is the power of immobility. The power of immobility is dharan samarthya. Practice of asanas removes the constant restlessness that plagues the human mind, and that restless energy can then be channelized to be more productive in day-to-day things. So, in brief, that's what an asana is, a posture which is steady and relaxed. Now, coming to pranayam. Pranayam comes from two Sanskrit words, prana, breath, life force, energy, and ayam, which means to lengthen. So, pranayam is the art and science of manipulating your breath, lengthening it where necessary to control and heal various bodily functions. But breath is shwas. So we'll wonder, why is it not called shwasayam? Why is it called pranayam? So I'll invite you to do a very simple exercise. Just bring your palms like this, loose palms, loose fingers, And just look at me, I'm rolling an imaginary ball of energy, 6 inches diameter in my hands. Now I'm going to shut my eyes and I'm going to concentrate on whatever I feel flowing between my palms. I can't see it, but can I sense some substance as I roll the ball between my palms? Now, when I do feel it, I keep my palms steady. And then I elongate an imaginary cylinder of energy between my palms. With my eyes shut, I see how far my palms stretch, and I still feel that energy. When I don't feel it anymore, I bring it close, bring the palms close together again. Let me do this a couple of times. And then relax the hands. So what we felt between our palms is this mysterious heart of yoga called prana or ki. It's amazing that science has developed tools to develop your heart-lung volume, measure your blood pressure, measure your lung function, your heart ejection fraction. But so far, we haven't really come up with a diagnostic tool to measure prana. So, although science doesn't completely endorse pranas yet, our experience endorses it. And so, we, for pranaya, and this prana that we felt between our palms is really flowing through our whole body. But just the way you may be sitting here not feeling your heartbeat, but your heart is beating, the prana is flowing through your whole body, whether you feel it or not. And in Hatha Yoga, we believe that there is just one reason for any illness you have, emotional, physical, or mental, that is improper flow of prana to different parts of your body. Asanas and pranayama align the flows of prana to different parts of your body, and that's why things which science deems incurable are cured by the practice of Hatha Yoga. For example, hemophilia, the doctors will say can't be cured. But I have a young student who's healed herself to 90% of her internal bleeds just by doing breath work. She couldn't even really do asanas because we were scared that any asana could give her an internal bleed, which then is another story. But just using her breath and consciousness, she has cured herself 90% of something that medical science says is not curable. And my yoga teacher says that if your whole body is ill and you can move one little finger, you start doing yoga with that little finger and it can heal your whole body. That's how powerful the science of Hatha Yoga is. So we start with breath work, Shwasayam, but breath controls the flow of prana in the body. And yogic texts say that a yogi doesn't breathe just with his respiratory equipment, he breathes with his whole body. Advanced stages of pranayam really teach you how to breathe with your brain, breathe with your belly, breathe with your hands, bring the breath to wherever healing is required. And it's not imagination. Breath is something very tangible that can be directed anywhere to bring about healing. So, Sri Aurobindo's words on pranayama. A disciple asked Sri Aurobindo, what part does breathing exercise pranayama play in bringing about the higher consciousness? Sri Aurobindo, it sets the pranic vital currents free and removes dullness of the brain so that the higher consciousness can come down. So, at least in my own experience, Hatha Yoga has been a very, very powerful tool in my practice of Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga. So, Sri Aurobindo's whole integral yoga is to bring the higher consciousness down, and the body needs to be receptive to receive it. And that's what Hatha Yoga does. It prepares the body to receive the higher consciousness. Pranayama does not bring dullness in the brain, he says. My own experience, on the contrary, is that the brain becomes illumined. When I was practicing pranayama at Baroda, I used to do it for about 5 hours in the day, 3 hours in the morning, 2 in the evening. I found that the mind began to work with great illumination and power. I used to write poetry in those days before the pranayama practice. Usually, I wrote 5 to 8 lines per day and about 200 lines in a month. After the practice, I could write 200 lines within half an hour. That was not the only result. Formerly, my memory was dull. But after this practice, I found that when the inspiration came, I could remember all the lines in their order and write them down correctly at any time. We all know Sri Aurobindo was a great poet, and he says pranayam helped him like this. Along with these enhanced functionings, I could see an electrical activity all around the brain, and I could feel that it was made up of a subtle substance. I could feel everything as a working of that substance that was from your carbon dioxide. So that's what Sri Aurobindo says about it. And then further, Sri Aurobindo also says, nectar of eternal youth. The Hatha Yogin, even at an age advanced beyond ordinary span, maintains the unimpaired vigor, health, and youth of the life in the body. Even the appearance of physical youth is sustained for a longer time, and this we can really see. We can see my yoga teacher's mother, Dhananti, she's 92. She teaches yoga twice a week to this day. So even the appearance of physical youth is sustained for a longer time. He has a much greater power of longevity, and from his point of view, the body being the instrument is a matter of no small importance to preserve it long and to keep it for all that time free from impairing deficiencies. So we see this in nature also. All animals that have long breaths, like the turtle, the elephant, they have longer lifespans. Whereas animals which are fast breathing, like the dog, they have a short lifespan. So the longer your breath, there's a saying in yoga that your life is given to you not in terms of certain number of years to live, but certain number of breaths to breathe. So if you breathe longer breaths, obviously your lifespan is going to increase. So yeah, among the benefits of Hatha Yoga is definitely great physical health, reversal of conditions that medicine can't heal, yoga can heal. It reverses the aging process, but reason is simple, whereas all other exercises or most other work on your skeletal-muscular system, yoga works on your organic body. It works on the organs inside your system. For example, when Hatha Yogi gave us this gem from yoga, Sarvangasana, Sarva Ang, good for all parts of your body, which is known to reverse thyroid imbalances. In those days, thyroid wasn't even named. But the yogis just intuitively knew that this is what it would do. Or when they tell us that all twists are good for reversing conditions like diabetes, they didn't know, they hadn't named the organ pancreas as pancreas, but they still knew intuitively the asanas that would kickstart a sluggish pancreas. So, so that is in brief what Hatha Yoga is, asana and pranayam. But the question is, why is it called Hatha Yoga? Well, it comes from two root words. Ha stands for the sun and tha stands for the moon. So, Hatha Yoga is the art and science of balancing the sun and moon energies. I'm sorry, there's a mistake in my screen share. It should be sun belts, belts, B-E-L-T-S, sun belts of knowledge, and moon belts, B-E-L-T-S, of delight. It's a beautiful line from Sri Aurobindo's Savitri, very poetic, sun belts of knowledge and moon belts of delight, because the sun is an ancient essence of power, strength, capacity. It represents the masculine essence, and the moon represents the feminine essence of romance, delight, whereas the masculine essence is of knowledge largely. And before the youth attack me, because when I teach my teenagers, they always tell me I'm being sexist when I say this. It is not about men and women, because if we go to the next screen share, look at this picture of Ardhanarishwar. This represents Indian spirituality to us. Every one of us is made up of the feminine and the masculine essence. That's what Ardhanarishwar represents. And there are these beautiful lines from Sri Aurobindo's Savitri. This is the knot that ties together the stars, the two who are one, the male Ishwar, the female Shakti, Purusha Prakriti, her and her, sun and moon. The two who are one are the secret of all power. The two who are one are the might and right in things. So, so if you look at our body, I may be a female, but along with having the female hormone estrogen, I do have the male hormone testosterone also. So also a male will also have testosterone and some amount of estrogen. So, uh, so it's not that these sun and moon are restricted to male and female. They are simply ancient essences that carry the masculine power. The sun carries the masculine power of strength, capacity, confidence, joy, wisdom, whereas the moon carries the feminine aspect of surrender, softness, romance, delight, all that is the moon. Now, if we don't balance the sun and moon inside us, we have illnesses or imbalances at mental, emotional, or physical levels. To give you a very concrete example, somebody who constantly has tonsils or thyroid related or throat related trouble, I'm saying generically, I'm not making it like a blanket statement. There are exceptions, but it could be that the male power in her life is subjugating the female power of expression. She's not being able to express. So her Vishuddhi chakra, the center of expression, is blocked and she gets constant thyroid or tonsil problems. So if you have too much sun in you, you become aggressive, egoistic, self-centered. If you have too much moon in you, you become passive, cowardly, prone to depression. So Hatha Yoga is the art and science of balancing the sun and moon, the male and female essences in you, to bring about healing at mental, emotional, and physical levels. Now, uh, the nadis. What are nadis? We just felt prana within our hands. Now, just the way blood flows in blood vessels, the main artery is aorta, the main vein is vena cava. The prana flows within channels which are called nadis, from the word nadi or something that flows. So there are three main nadis in our body. Sushumna, through which prana flows when we are enlightened, so we are not looking at that now. But the two main nadis we are looking at right now is the Pingala Nadi shown in red, which is the sun channel connected to your right nostril, and the Ida Nadi, the blue channel connected to your left nostril. So, and they flow like a DNA helix around your spine. That's why your spine is so important for all pranayam purposes. So, if we breathe through the right nostril, which is connected to the Pingala Nadi or the Musan channel, we are stimulating sun energies within us. If we breathe through the left nostril, which is connected to your Ida Nadi, we are stimulating moon energies within us. So, the king of pranayam, Nadi Shodhan pranayam, those of us who practice it know we do digital pranayam, breathing in left, breathing out right, breathing in right, breathing out left. So that creates a balance between Ida and Pingala and between your right brain and your left brain. A very interesting experience shared with me by Dhan Palkiwala, my yoga teacher's mother, who used to study with Guruji B.K.S. Iyengar. And once Dhananti was diagnosed with kidney stones, and she told Guruji that I probably am going to go in for a surgery because that's what the doctors recommend. So Guruji just looked at her. In that class, he made them do Nadi Shodhan for half an hour, which is very long to do it. We normally don't do it for more than 5 to 10 minutes. At the end of that half an hour, Dhananti went to the loo, and with her urine, she passed out her kidney stones. Now you will wonder what has breath got to do with it, but it's not just the air you're breathing in. The air you're breathing in is Shvasayam, but it stimulates pranayam, the even flow of healing prana in your whole body. Uh, Typically, if you have high BP or you have a very angry temperament, if you do just Chandra Nadi Pranayam, that is, you just block your right nostril with your thumb, leave your left nostril open, and breathe in and out only through your left nostril for start with 3 minutes, increase it to 5 minutes. Do this 3 times a day. Recently, one of my students, when she went to get her shot, her pressure had shot up to 170 by uh, the lower one, I don't remember, but I know her upper one was 170. And I told her, I refuse to take tablets. You show me how to bring down the pressure. So I told her, just do this Chandra Nadi Pranayam for 5 minutes, 3 times a day. Within a week, she brought down her pressure. And when she went again, her pressure was normal. They could give her her vaccination shot. I had another school student who had a lot of rage, and she said, I don't know what happens to me. I actually throw things when I get angry. And she was barely 15 years old. And I told her to do this Chandra Nadi Pranayam. I told her whenever anger comes, before you do anything, go to your bathroom and do Chandra Nadi Pranayam, and every day do it twice a day. And she said it totally took care of her her rage tantrums, and her anger came to her also with so much less intensity. So that's at the level of nadis, sun and moon, Ida Pingala. At the level of your breath, plain shwas, we all know that we'll always lift up a heavy weight when we inhale. It'll be very odd too. We'll always do, and we'll lift a weight. And if we have a heavy bag on our shoulders, we'll always exhale and drop it down. So inhalation is the sun part of our breath. It's the part of our breath which brings us energy. And exhalation is the moon part of our breath, the breath which helps us to release and let go. So if you really observe somebody's breath, you can sometimes make out the person's mind. An angry, agitated person will have more prominent inhalations and very improminent exhalations. Uh, so, by changing your breath, if you are an agitated, angry person and you make your exhalations long, typically that temperament can be reversed. So, also, we have something called 1:2 questions. Can you keep it for the end, please? Yeah, I'll answer all your questions at the end. So, the inhalation, typically, if you have insomnia, so once when my brother was very, very jet lagged and he couldn't sleep for nights, and he told me, I'm going to pop a compost today unless I find a way out. So I told him to do the 1:2 breathing. That is, you inhale 1, 2, 3, and you exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you inhale 1, 2, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, lengthen your exhalation. And I told him, go to sleep doing the 1:2 breathing. And he slept like a baby that night, and he didn't need to take his sleeping tablet. Why? Because when you have insomnia, somehow there's a lot of restlessness and there's a lot of sun energy, and it needs to be balanced with the moon energy of peace. So if you lengthen the exhalation, that automatically happens. So we discuss sun and moon at the level of nadis, at the level of breath. Then also there's sun and moon at the level of your muscles. Uh, when you gym very vigorously, you're strengthening the muscles, you're strengthening the sun aspect of the ability of a muscle to contract. But the health of a muscle is not only about its ability to contract, it's also about its ability to relax, to stretch. So a healthy muscle is one which is both strong, it can contract well, and it can stretch well. The flexibility aspect is the moon aspect, the contractile aspect is the sun aspect. Now we come to a very important part of yoga, the psychology of Hatha yoga practice. I said that Patanjali says Thiram Sukham Asanam. I explained why he says Thiram and Asana should be steady. But why did he say it should be relaxed? Because your attitude to an asana becomes your attitude to life. When you stretch in an asana, you experience some pain. The more reactive you are to that pain, the more reactive you are to the stresses of life. If you change that reactivity threshold in an asana, it automatically changes in life as well. So again, Hatha Yogi had discovered this new age phenomena called neuroplasticity, which scientists are exploring in their labs right now. Neuroplasticity simply says that with change of consciousness, the blueprint in your nervous system changes. So let's just quickly watch this video.
These are our habits. Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-travelled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep travelling that road, our brains begin.
So suppose the white pathway is the pathway for anxiety, but suppose we don't feed that anxiety and we start feeding, say, watching our breath, then over a period of time, this pathway for anxiety disappears and the pathway for peace gets enhanced.
Begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
So neuroplasticity is what we access when we are doing an asana. We actually change the blueprint in our nervous system. Another aspect of a good yoga practice is a good yoga class will always encourage you to do an asana in a way that it feels good rather than looks good. Because if you do it like that, that's how you will live. You won't live your life just to build images in people's mind and look good, but you'll live your life in a way that you feel good being yourself within the skin. And the last thing is Hatha Yoga and the parasympathetic nervous system. So we all know that, or some of us know, that we have the autonomic nervous system, which has the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight nervous system, which helps you to cope with danger by pumping blood out of your brain, digestive organs, etc., and pumping it into muscles, making them strong. Now, if you have to fight against a tiger in a jungle, this is useful. But if while meeting a deadline in the corporate, your parasympathetic nervous system does this, it's counterproductive because it's withdrawing blood from your brain and pumping it into the muscles. Now, only if your brain thinks, okay, the danger has passed, I'm safe, your parasympathetic or your calming nervous system kicks in and restores blood to your brain and everywhere else. But if we are in the habit of constantly thinking I'm under stress, your sympathetic nervous system is constantly active, not giving your parasympathetic nervous system a chance to kickstart. And what you don't use, you lose. So over a period of time, you lose the ability to be calm. So even when there's no trigger from the outside, you have lost, your nervous system has lost its ability to give you a calm, peaceful mind state. And we have superb asanas like Sarvangasana, Silver Bullet, which are directly targeted to kickstart the parasympathetic nervous system, which is why yoga works so beautifully to alleviate anxiety, which is more a habit of the consciousness than something circumstantial for most people. So with this, I'll pause and I'll take your questions. There are some which are already on the chat, so let me address them while the rest of you type. I am diabetic since the last 40 years, no pancreas shown in ultrasound. by yoga, can we improve? Definitely we can improve. See, yoga is like an ocean. You approach it with a spoon, you'll get a spoonful of water. You approach it with a cup, you'll get a cup full. You approach it with a bucket, you'll get a bucket full of water. It's how sincerely you approach it that the cure will come. But yes, many people have been cured of diabetes. They are completely off their tablets with a regular yoga practice. Inhaling to balance the sun is through right. Inhaling to increase the sun is through the right, and to increase the moon is the left nostril. Yeah, I hope I've answered the question. If you want to increase sun energies, you breathe through the right. To increase moon energies, you breathe through the left. Is there any difference in the psychology of Hatha Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga? Well, Ashtanga Yoga is given to us by Patanjali, who's regarded as the founder of the yoga philosophy. It lists the 8 limbs of yoga, starting from yama, niyama, all the way to samadhi. And of this Ashtanga Yoga, asana is the 3rd limb and pranayama is the 4th limb. Hatha Yoga is the subset of Ashtanga Yoga. It includes asana and pranayama. So somebody has asked, I want to be a student of Hatha Yoga. How do I begin? Obviously, at the beginning, by finding a good yoga teacher. Definitely don't try to learn Hatha Yoga from YouTube, or it's not like that. Hatha Yoga follows the Guru Shishya Parampara. You need a good yoga teacher, not the kind of stuff that the media has made it. Can we get the next question? Can we please get a recording of today's session? As I'd like to be, certainly. Palak, can they get a recording of today's session?
Yes, the session would be uploaded on YouTube, and we will be sharing the link in the next newsletter. So you can subscribe to the newsletter. And
Sure. Any other questions? Most welcome, Shilpa. There's another question. Advice for good, peaceful sleep. Yes. Let me show you this screen share. This is a marvel that Hatha Yoga. See this position, silver bullet. In English, if you look up silver bullet, it's a posture that it's a bullet that heals many targets, hits many targets at one go. This is called silver bullet because over here in your sacrum spine, you have your parasympathetic or moon nervous system, lunar nervous system. When this system has been weakened, you get conditions of insomnia, sleeplessness, restlessness. Now, in this position, now mark it very carefully. In fact, one of my videos on Integral Yoga portal is dedicated to silver bullet. If you subscribe to it, you'll get it. You have to have a proper 90-degree angle over here and a proper 90-degree angle at the knee joint. If your chair is high, imagine it's high, then you'll get an obtuse angle here that's counterproductive. You need a proper 90-degree angle. You can put a pillow below your head. Palms can be on your belly. In this position, your tailbone is raised and your sacral spine is gently dropped into the earth, which kickstarts your parasympathetic nervous system. If you stay in this pose with your hands on your belly, maybe a napkin over your eyes, a pillow below your head, hands on your belly, and just count 108 breaths, feeling your belly rising and falling, it has helped in fact, many of my young students, when they get anxious during exams, though they have only 3 hours of sleep, they are too anxious to get sleep when they go to bed. So they get out of bed, they do the silver bullet, and then they sleep like a baby. Or 1:2 breathing, making your exhalation longer than your inhalation. You could do the 1:2 breathing in the silver bullet. That's also marvelous. Any other questions? Do you have any adwa? What are the one sec, huh? The anxiety or stress that rises due to deadlines, uncertainty, risk, which breathing exercises can be practiced during office hours so that I can make right decisions, retaining blood flow in the brain? Very good question. Difficult to teach you any breathing exercises right now because you actually have to get your body ready with asanas before you go to pranayama. But a very simple thing you can do is you can keep your mobile timer ready and you can just watch the breath entering and leaving your nostrils. Now, breath work has two aspects: pranayama, which is manipulating the breath, and sati, which is breath awareness without manipulating it. So I wouldn't recommend that you do pranayama without a teacher, but you can certainly do sati, and it is wonderful for anxiety. So what you do is you shut your eyes, you sit comfortably, you just become aware of the air entering and leaving your nostrils. And you'll notice that your attention is divided between thought and breath. Your only attempt is to withdraw attention from the thought and focus it on the breath. So you will continue to think, but you try to ignore thoughts and focus on the breath. And if you get carried away by thought, no problem. You just come back to the breath. You keep the timer on your mobile for 3 minutes. So you do this for 3 minutes and you'll see what a difference it makes. I knew somebody who had severe panic attacks, and I told her to do this every 2 hours because she hadn't started Hatha Yoga yet and couldn't. And within 2 days, her panic attacks went away because this simple practice actually gives you neuroplasticity. Because when you're doing it, there are thoughts going on. But if you don't feed that thought and you feed the breath, the blueprint of that anxious thought gets weaker and weaker and finally goes away. You can certainly do that if you have a cabin and the wherewithal to do silver bullet in office. In fact, when I teach at corporates, I always teach them silver bullet because it's something that you can do. You just need a chair. If you just lock your door, or if you have a private, many corporates also have a gym room, right? So if you can go there and just do the silver bullet before very stressed, haven't slept, 15 minutes will give you the rest you need and the fuel to go on with the day. What Hatha Yoga school would you suggest? So many, so I'm asking. Really can't suggest that. All the schools are wonderful in their own way. If you like the very powerful yoga, there's the Patabi Joy school, there's Iyengar Yoga, there's the Bihar school. And I'm not one to disrespect any of the schools. Maybe you should try. More important than the school is the teacher. If you get a good teacher, any school will come alive for you. I was recently diagnosed with GERD and hypothyroidism. I started with Nadi Shodhan and Surya Namaskars a few weeks back. However, I tend to think I'm really sick and have overthinking issues. How do I change that? I don't know in what capacity you've started Nadi Shodhan and Surya Namaskars. As I said, Nadi Shodhan is a very, very advanced pranayama, and I would certainly not teach a beginner that. So if you're beginning with that, I don't know how productive it is. I just suggest find a good yoga teacher and do whatever you learn on a daily basis. That will definitely help. I see the neck support in silver bullet, a roll on a blanket. What is the exact position for that? Should it touch, lift, or support the shoulders too? Very good observation. Let me go back to the screen share. So you can see it's not below the shoulders. The shoulders are on the floor. The reason for the support is many times we have a cervical curve which is like this, a computer neck, what I call. If you're a lot on the computer, you develop this kind of a computer neck. So when you lie down, your chin will be up and your neck will be contracted, and it won't be very comfortable. So the pillow below your head is so that your chin is relaxed and the neck isn't stressed. So it should not be below the shoulders. It should just be below the occipital region of the skull and the neck. What are the basic yoga practices that everyone must follow daily? No, I will not answer that. Your practices can only be given to you by your teacher. It's not, please understand, yoga is a very subtle science. You can learn exercises, but if you're talking about yoga, only your teacher should guide you after looking at your body, after understanding you, what are the practices that you should follow every day. Do you have any advice on diet, balancing what you eat with Hatha Yoga practice? Oh, not only with Hatha Yoga practice, diet is very important to live a good life, because your mood is so dependent on the food you eat. I once worked with a young student who had really severe schizophrenia, and my yoga teacher advised her on her diet. And within 1 week of following that diet, and of course doing yoga that we taught her, etc., she was so much better. I often find when people are anxious or depressed, if they just change their diet, their whole mind changes. Simple things like get off wheat, maybe not forever, but at least as a therapy, because it's the most acidic of all grains. So get off wheat, get off dairy products, not because I'm against milk. Ayurveda gives a very important position to milk, but the dairy you're getting is the cattle you're getting milk from are so heavily pumped with hormones that you're getting all those hormones with the milk. That is why there's such an epidemic of PCOD, PCOS, and hormone related problems. So unless you're getting your milk from a very pure source, all these packaged milks and all, they are, I feel, one of the primary reason for hormonal imbalances in the body. Have with every meal, eat a big bowl of salad, 50% raw, then eat whatever cooked. Breakfast, only fruit and dry fruit if you can. So these are the broad, lots of water to drink, have one raw juice every day, like an apple, carrot, beetroot juice, or a palak nimbu juice, or a juice made up of dudhi, coriander, mint, adrak. You can have various combinations, but anything raw is alkaline, and anything alkaline is detoxing for you. Anything cooked is acidic, and anything acidic builds up toxins. Avoid food from packages because they have preservatives, which are also not great for you. Can you please share your contact for guidance? Palak, can you share my email ID, please, on the net, on this group?
Yes, sure.
The 10121.
Yeah.
Okay. More on sleep. Can sleep apnea be mitigated? Some breath work? Certainly. Definitely it can be, but cannot speak about that breath work here. But we have something called the Ujjayi breath, the breath of the victor in yoga. That would certainly help. Also, you can get in touch with me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm available there also. Any other questions? Can you suggest appropriate timings for different body and mind type of people? I don't understand the question. Can you elaborate a little? Appropriate timings for what? For the yoga practice? Typically, morning is.
Can ask if it's easier.
Yes, you can unmute. It's much better to do yoga in the morning. It's a beautiful way to kickstart your system on an empty stomach, etc. But if you are rushed in the morning, there's no point doing it with rush. You can, I know that when I had first started yoga, I was kind of a little mad about it because I was seeing the magic it was doing for me. And I was teaching in schools there. I didn't have much time in the morning. So I used to do half my yoga practice in the morning and then do yoga at night, 9 to 11. But I'm not suggesting that for everyone. I'm just telling you this to tell you that you should do it anytime when you're relaxed and on an empty stomach. Any other questions? Over to you, Palak, then, if there are no more questions. Okay, there's one more question. Can you throw some light on the importance of Shraddha Bhav and Samarpan Bhav in the practice of yoga? That's a beautiful question, Ram Kumar. See, the mother has said a beautiful thing. She has said that you can live a truth only when you know it with your body. The body consciousness has to know the truth. Now, in yoga, we have this aspect of demuscularizing. When we can do the powerful namaskars, the jumping namaskars, the vinyasas, which strengthen muscles, but we also have practices of soften Surya Namaskars, bolster actions, where you teach your muscles to surrender to gravity. Now, when your muscles learn that, automatically it translates into an understanding in your mind of surrender, because you've learned to surrender with your body. And very often we do our yoga practices with mantras that inspire us. So we could be stretching in an asana with the Anandamayi chant, and how beautifully the prana starts flowing in the body, how the surrender automatically happens. So yes, Shraddha has a very big role to play in a good asana practice. Can you suggest some basic books for Hatha Yoga? Yes. So there is Self-Taught Yoga by Andre van Lisbeth. There is Guruji B.K.S. Iyengar's Light on Yoga. My yoga teacher has written a beautiful book called The Mother Sequence, but that is only for people who have learned the Mother Sequence with one of the teachers. And so I'm not really saying that because I don't know about its availability, but that's also a beautiful book. Bihar School of Yoga has a lovely book called Asanas, Mudras and Pranayama. And otherwise, just walk into the Hatha Yoga section and see which book calls you, because it's a very individual thing. What I love may not appeal to you. So you have to just browse through and see what calls you.
Yeah, can you please just repeat the first two books? I miss it.
Self-Taught Yoga by Andre van Lisbeth.
Andre van Lisbeth. Yeah.
B.K.S. Iyengar's Light on Yoga.
Thank you.